That's a major discussion that philosophers have gotten into for centuries. Is things preordained, or do we have free choice? Or are both things possible at the same time? And that's true. Certain things in your life seem like it's destiny. If I had gone this way and not gone that way, my life would be totally different. And it's true. If I had not met this man, my life would not have been the same. We chose that title because Egypt is based on a Greek term. The ancient term is called hetkapata. I mentioned this, of course, in my first book. It became Hegyptos to the Greeks. Egyptos. That's where Egypt came from. It was only one site. Site is an Egyptian city today known as Mitrahaina, near the ancient site of Memphis. It was just one site. It wasn't the whole civilization. The whole civilization was known as Chem, or Kempt, the black land, the rich, dark alluvial soil that the Nile she deposits when she floods. And that was the basis of the civilization. So we decided, and Hakim's teachings talked about the fact that totally different from what Egyptology was teaching, and it's that there was a previous highly advanced civilization before the so-called dynasties, over 10,000 years ago. Highly advanced with advanced ancient technology. They built the pyramids and carved the Sphinx. So there was a whole different take to go on, and we had a whole different understanding based on what he presented to us. We can start with just the thing that people are always concerned about. Pyramids. We have in the academic Egyptology a solid assumption, without any real basis in fact, that pyramids were tombs for kings. Why? Because it's based on the writing of the Greeks. The Greeks came in not understanding what the civilization was about, and they looked at it and they said, well, these must be kings and their sons, so these great structures must be tombs where these kings were buried, and we break into them, and sure enough, we don't find anything. We don't find any grave goods, we don't find any mummies, we don't find anything that's ever related to the pyramids being tombs. But that is what has been accepted for hundreds of years and still accepted today in academic Egyptology. Well, Hakim's take was very different. He talked about different terms. One term, they were called pers, P-E-R, meant house of this, house of that. So the term per-neter is where pyramid comes from. Neter is the word that we differ about, greatly different from what the Egyptologists teach, in that neter defined by Egyptology as god or goddess, deity. No, according to our teaching, it's an aspect of the divine, a principle. And in fact, the first one to question that, long before Hakim even, was this Alsatian French philosopher, mathematician, R.A. Schwaller de Lubitsch, who wrote a series of books in the 30s, going up to the 50s, where he argued the fact that neter was translated incorrectly. It didn't mean deity, it meant an aspect of the whole, a principle of the divine. And that he is the first one to mention that there was a previous advanced civilization. Well, Hakim jumps right in with saying, yes, Schwaller was right. This is a very ancient tradition that's handed down, that per-neter meant the house of the neter. Neter could also be characterized as correlating with our word nature, because the word neter, when the Greeks came in, they pronounced it neter, and they had their own word physis. Physis was their word for what is the natural world, where we get the word physics and physical from, physis. But the Latin-speaking people, when the Romans came in, they heard the Greeks calling the term neter, and they said, well, that's very similar to our word natura, which is nature. So we say pyramid really meant house of nature, house of energy. And my basic work was that ancient Egypt was a matriarchy. It was not fathers, kings to their sons. It was basically women who were the ruling. Descent went from mother to daughter. And sure enough, his first day I met Hakim in 92, he verified that completely. It was a major part of his teachings that the civilization was matrilineal, matriarchal. No one has gotten that right but us. All the Egyptologists, all those that are looking at kings, and they think the word pharaoh, the word per, it comes from another term, another per-ah. That meant the high house. Well, everybody from the Greeks to the Romans down to modern Egyptologists has translated high house as the male's house, saying that was the pharaoh. But that actually the term high house was the woman's house.